Okay, I think it's
Awesome.
recording now. Okay.
We figured out technology.
Yeah, we did it. Okay, so should we just go ahead and start with the scenarios, and then I think we'll just ask our questions at the end. Does that work?
Yep.
3 questions.
That works for me.
Okay, sounds good. So I'll go ahead and read the first scenario. Sarita states that she studied for hours for a history test, more than she'd ever studied before, yet she only scored a 54. What are the short-term goals, long-term goals? What strategies can you use to accomplish the long-term goals while still addressing the short-term needs?
Okay. I think one short-term goal would be helping her learn strategies on how to study, so that she can eventually know better ways.
Yep. And long-term goal, she could just keep her grade in mind, I guess, and like what she wants in the future with her, like what a good grade will get her, like whether it's like into a program she wants or like a profession she wants or anything like that. That could be one of her long-term goals, and her short-term goals would help her get there.
That's fair. So then the strategies for getting the long-term goals would basically, in my mind, be making short-term goals. Like,
along the way.
Yeah, like you need a study break. Getting enough sleep is just as good as studying, you know? Being her learn those basic life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, do you want to read the next one?
Yeah. Jack does his math homework and can usually do the problems unassisted. When taking tests, however, he never scores above 65. What are the short-term goals, long-term goals? What strategies can you use to accomplish the long-term goals while still addressing the short-term needs?
So probably a short-term goal would be like addressing, he probably just has test anxiety or something like that. So just kind of addressing the test anxiety and talking to him about what to do when he gets to the testing center, whether it's like getting scratch paper and writing down like any formulas he needs, or doing some breathing exercises, whatever works. And then, what do you think for long term?
I think long-term goals would be to learn, in my opinion, the strategies of test anxiety, because that's going to help him in all of his classes. And it'll also help him when he gets into like stressful situations in the future, because that anxiety can come out then too.
Right.
So a short-term thing you could use for the long-term goal would be, if it's that severe that he's doing super great on the homework and doing horrible on tests, it could be something he could go get the skills from like the wellness center, because it's a free resource for him. So that could be good.
Yes, good point. That's good. Okay, so Carrie states that she reads and rereads the summary pages of the psychology textbook, yet she cannot answer the picky multiple choice questions on tests and has now failed her second test. So same question, the short-term, long-term, and then what strategies can you use to accomplish while still addressing short-term needs?
One short-term goal could be figure out what notes she's taking in class. Because I know usually with teachers, summary pages don't give you the information the teacher wants you to have. It just gives you the information the textbook writer thinks is important.
Right.
So helping her with her note-taking would be one for me.
I would agree with that, just because like just reading something, you could be reading and not like being actively engaged. So she needs to like think of a way to either like highlight the textbook and write notes on the side. If she can't do that, then have a notebook out and write her own notes. And it sounds like she needs like a way to actively study as well. So maybe like flashcards or something like that. Yeah. And then like during the multiple choice questions, just to be able to like read them and then like deduce answers, and get it down to like 2 answers. That's usually what I do on my test, but I guess that would work for a long-term goal as well. Help you with future multiple choice question tests. Just being able to figure out which answers are not right first and then finding the right answer from that.
I think another thing would just make sure she's actually reading the full textbook. Because all it says is she's reading and rereading the summary pages, but the summary is a summary, and it doesn't have all the details.
Exactly.
So maybe another long-term goal could be helping her learn how to skim, because that way, if she doesn't have as much time, she can still go through and figure out important things. And that could even be teaching her how to read a textbook, because they do usually highlight important concepts. We do bolding and stuff like that, and colors.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's usually what I did, was just looked at the bold terms.
Oh yeah, same. And those in boxes.
Right, nobody has time to read the whole thing, so. Okay, so the next one.
Okay.
Go ahead and read that. Well, I think it's my turn. Matt is concerned about getting his paper completed by the deadline a week away. He has had the assignment for 6 weeks, but hasn't started it yet.
Okay, well, I think a short-term goal where he's running out of time is make sure he at least knows what he's trying to say with the paper, so what his topic is, and then have him choose a few main points and then just have him research it. But I think a long-term goal would be to help him with procrastination.
Yes, for sure. And that's what I was going to say. Or like time management skills, that kind of stuff. Like prioritizing your time, because like life gets busy, and like he probably didn't realize that 6 weeks had gone by, right? So
That's true.
Yeah, time management helps with that too.
Well, I think for the last question, the strategies for accomplishing long-term goals while addressing short-term would maybe teach him how to take this next week and break it into different little categories. Like, oh, this day you're going to make sure you get the introduction day. This day you get all your research figured out. This day you know.
Yeah.
And then tell him in the future, spread this out so it's this week you do this instead of this day. So he learns sort of ways to break it down.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that. I like that a lot.
Okay. Next one. Kirsten says that she knew everything in her notes for the political science test, but she got a D. And the professor indicated that she needed to include more details.
I think she got a D. Interesting. So, yeah, it sounds like she might have like been able to like recall things from her notes by looking at them, like but she wasn't able to like talk about it herself. That's like kind of a big thing that students run into. They're like, oh, like I looked over my notes all the time and they looked really familiar to me, but without their notes, they're not able to recall the information because it's not right there. So that's probably what happened to her. She was familiar with everything, but she didn't know enough about the details.
Yeah.
So for that, I would probably say a short-term goal would to be like get a study buddy and talk to them about the concepts that they're learning in political science. That way she can really see like if she understands it well or not.
That's fair. I think another thing she could do is she was obviously using her notes as her study and everything in there. If everything in your notes doesn't go into enough detail, then maybe figuring out a way to add a little more detail to your notes, because that's obviously what you're missing in your notes. If that's what you're going to use for studying, it should have everything you need.
Good point. And then, yeah, for long term, she could learn some note-taking skills. And something I always struggled with was like trying to write down like everything that the teacher said. So like learn how to like shorthand things or learn how to just write down keywords and then go back to your textbook and fill in like the blanks that you had in your notes, or if your teacher records the lectures, or if he does a PowerPoint, would be another way to do that.
That's true. That's true.
Should we move on to the next one?
Yeah.
Okay. Federico believes that there are so many facts to learn in the history course that it is impossible to memorize everything. What are the short-term goals, long-term goals, and what strategies can you use to accomplish the long-term goals while still addressing the short-term needs?
Well, I think his short-term goals is going to be to learn what he needs to memorize, like what's more important, and then how to remember the concepts, because there's different ways to remember things, whether it's writing it down, drawing a picture, making like a word analogy or anagram or whatever they're called, where like the things rhyme, or you've got a funny pattern of words.
Right.
Like learning ways to remember things could be helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
Those, yes.
Or like talking to someone who's already taken the course and asking them like, hey, like what do I need to look out for on this test? Like a lot of people come into the tutoring center and ask that, like, what do I need to look out for? That way you're not so overwhelmed, because sometimes teachers give you way more information than it's going to be on the test. So yeah, and then just like learning ways to memorize the facts. For some people it's flashcards, for some people it's, I don't know, drawing it out. Just depends how you learn.
So I think maybe one of his short-term goals could be learning how he learns.
Yeah, for sure.
Because his friend might say, oh, do this, and it's not going to do anything for him.
Like figuring out what his learning style is, instead of just like doing what his friends say, for sure. And that could be one of his long-term goals too, because sometimes the way you learn changes based on what subject it is too.
That's true.
Like for one class, flashcards could work, but for the other class, I need to sit out and have a discussion like with a study buddy. Like it just depends on what kinds of concepts you're trying to learn. So
that's fair. Okay. You good for the next one? Okay. Brianne is frustrated with her geography text professor and exams because the course is just a liberal arts requirement. She has not chosen a major. So I think for her, one of her short-term goals could be to change her mindset on the course. Because when that's your mindset, it doesn't matter if the professor's good. The class is not going to be good in your mind.
No. And you're not going to want to try. Yeah, you're not going to want to even put in the effort to get a good grade.
Yeah.
Like I've definitely been there before. Did not end well. Yeah. Yeah, so mindset, and that could be a long-term goal as well, just having a more positive outlook on life and doing things that you don't want to do because you know they'll help you be successful.
Yeah. I think it'd also be good to point out to her that though you haven't chosen a major yet, like that class could have one of the little tiny subtopics that leads you into finding your major.
Right. Like, or you might find an interest in it that you didn't know you had.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, most of hers is mindset based.
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Are you good to move on to questions that we were planned, or?
Yeah, I'm good to move on to questions. We'll just do, so are we just supposed to ask each other the questions?
Yeah, we're supposed to ask the questions discuss and then
Discuss with the group. Okay. Yeah,
yeah,
create.
well, what's supposed to be as a group, but it just ended
Yeah.
up being
It's a partnership.
yes. Okay.
Oh, could you not see my face the whole time? Was it just the top of my head?
I think so. I was
That's
not
okay.
paying attention because you're this little box, but
It's okay. That's funny. He's gonna be like, oh, just your
okay.
forehead.
That's all we
Okay.
need to see, obviously.
Yeah, seriously. Um, okay, so one of my questions, going off of like the stuff that we read in the tutoring training course this week, what did you like about the opening and closing of the tutoring sessions? What did you learn from that?
You cut out mid-question. What was that question again?
Oh, no, you're good. What did you learn from like the readings on opening and closing a session?
I really liked about how it was saying you need to have goals at both, because I've always asked like the goals at the beginning, like, oh, what do you want to learn from this? And then like if it comes up naturally, I've mentioned the goals about what they should go do. Like, oh yeah, this concept you can go talk to your teacher about because we need clarity on the assignment or this, or but making it more of a priority to like outline it with them, it seems important. What about you?
Yeah, I like that a lot. Like, it's important to discuss with them when they leave. Like, oh, like, did this concept stick? Like, did you learn this, or do we need to like reschedule and talk about this? Because like you could have one thing in your mind and you think it went really well, but for them, they're still confused. So I think it's still important to like make sure that you guys are on the same page at the end of the session and also at the beginning of the session. And then I liked, like in that video when he was like, I always start out my sessions with enthusiasm because it helps get the people excited. Really like that because like if you're just like, okay, what do you want to learn today? Like obviously they're not gonna like be excited. So yeah, that's what I liked.
That's fair. Okay. I'll go now. Why is it important for a tutor to be open about the fact that they aren't perfect?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, yeah, because I think it can really beat on your self-confidence when you expect yourself to know every single question that someone comes in with. And obviously you're not going to because you only took the course once too. Like you're not the professor, you know, like you got a good grade in the course, but you're not like the expert on it. So I think it's important to keep an open mind because, or to keep, what was your question? To
Be open about the fact you're not perfect.
yeah, to keep an open mind about like not being perfect so that you can like teach them how you learned instead of just saying, oh yeah, I know this. Like you'll be able to like say like, yeah, I actually really struggled with that too. Like, let me show you how I came to the answer.
That's
So,
fair.
yeah.
I
What
found
about you?
that when I don't instantly know the answer and we have to like work through it together to figure out the answer, whether that be like looking through the textbook or the assignment sheet or, you know, that the people relax a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think as tutors, we're sometimes this like big scary being in the mind, like, oh, this is this straight A student that's all knowing and they're gonna think I'm dumb. And I found a lot of people come with that perception. They're like, I'm sorry if this takes time, like I'm not that good. And they have that
You're like,
perception
no.
of like being tutored. And so the fact that you're like, oh yeah, let's figure this out together. Like I don't instantly know the answer. They go, oh, okay. And like, whoop, and then it's just a conversation where they're relaxed a lot more and learning.
Yeah, that's really good. I like it. I like it a lot. So another one of my questions was, have you been a tutor before? That's not a question, but is this your
Yes.
first time tutoring? You have? Okay, you seem very experienced. That's awesome. I was just gonna ask, like, what do you like about tutoring?
I really like people getting it. So I've tutored English and math, and there's like differences, but the one thing that's always the same is when someone clicks and they understand it, you can just like, you can tell it changes their whole like body language, demeanor. They suddenly become more confident in themselves because they actually understand something and they're like, I get it. And you can just tell there's like this, I understand, I'm not dumb, it's all great. And I love watching people walk out of this tutoring session with more confidence than they came in.
Yeah,
And just
that's
seeing
really
that difference.
good. That's really, really good. Yeah. So far, I've noticed that too. Like, if I'm able to sit down with someone for, sometimes it only takes like 30, 40 minutes to explain something to them. And then, like, suddenly, like, oh my gosh, like, just having another person talk to them about it, they're like, oh my gosh, like, I totally get it. And that's, yeah, that makes me really happy. And I love, like, having a job where I can literally just talk to people the whole time. It's super fun. And just become their friends, honestly. I love it. So I'm really excited for the semester, honestly.
I'm glad. Is this your first semester tutoring then?
Yeah, my first time too. I was like really nervous, but now I'm like, okay, it's actually not that bad. I like it a lot.
That's fair. No, that's a fun job.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's see. Well, if you could sum up tutoring into one word, what would it be and why?
Tutoring into one word. Man, that's like the hardest question. I'll just say exciting because you never know like what kinds of questions you're gonna get. You never know where the person is starting from. So it's like it's always like something new, I guess. Like even though you're tutoring the same subject, like you're always getting like a new person. Well, you can have like people who come regularly, but like a new person with like a new challenge, and yeah, just keeps it exciting. I don't know. What about
That's
you?
fair. I think best word would be service because I've always seen it as something that can like help people and like can change their lives in a way because I know there's been people who they get so stressed about classes and that consumes their whole life. And just being able to like help lessen that stress, it's like you're serving someone and you're helping people and
You get paid for it. That's great.
fair. It's not volunteer service, but you're still helping them.
No, yeah, no, I love it. I love it.
But yeah,
No, I'm just saying, like, it's a win-win, man. Like,
it is.
it's great.
And it's free for them, so they don't complain.
Right? Yeah. And I love that at Dixie it's free too. Like, I feel like it should be. Because some people don't have enough money to pay for tutors, but they want, like, to be successful. So
Yeah,
I like that it's free at Dixie. That's really awesome.
it is.
And then I was also going to ask you, since you've been tutoring for a while too, how has tutoring helped with your own self-esteem?
I think it's made me realize how much I know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's made me also realize ways I can learn more. And so like academically, it's helped my self-esteem a lot. But I think it's also helped because I've had those returning students who come back and the ones that are like, oh, you're so great, or you were so helpful. And so you get a lot of like positive feedback when you do a good job tutoring. Because I've had students like, oh, I love you, you're the best, or I want one of your hours, I want to come in when you're in. And those are just like, it's very self-esteem boosting, which helps your confidence. And it's like, hey, not only am I good at this subject, but people like coming to me, which means I must be doing something right.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. Yeah, so far I've noticed basically the same things. Like the other day, like I was just talking to a girl, she's like, yeah, what are your hours? I want to come back to you. Like that was so, so helpful. And I was just like, really? I didn't think it would be. But yeah, no, like it just helps your self-esteem so much. So I'm really excited about that too. But
Yeah. It's always a good moment when they ask for your hours. You're like,
Yeah, you're like, what?
putting in extra effort to work around when I work?
Yeah, I see. Yeah, because right now I'm not in classes, I'm just working. And so, like, at the tutoring center, I want to be busy, like, the whole time. I know some students are like, oh, I need time to, like, work on my homework too, but I, like, want people there the whole time because I think it's so fun, and then I'm not just sitting there. So,
That's fair.
yeah.
I had one semester where I tutored without doing classes, and I was the same way. The
Yeah,
semesters I do classes, I'm like, okay, I need some breaks. Like, I'm okay to be busy,
right.
but I need a second to breathe
You do,
between because my
yeah.
brain's already been busy all day.
Yeah, because
So,
then you have your own classes that are, like, probably
yeah.
still different from what the ones you're tutoring. So you're, like, making so many mental switches during the day, I'm sure. It's probably hard.
Yeah. But when you're not doing school, it's great to have 102 sessions.
Right? Yeah. So I hope I get booked a lot. But okay.
Okay.
Did I ask 3? Yes. Right?
I think I've got one more
You've
to
got one more.
ask.
Okay. Perfect.
What boundaries need to happen with your tutorees?
Boundaries. Um, I mean, I think like they need to know that like you're there to tutor and not to like chat the whole time. Do you know what I mean? So that's like one of the boundaries. Like if you want to be friends, like you should meet up like after class and go do something, because when you're at the tutoring center, you're there to just tutor and to talk about the subject material. Like it's okay to have a little bit of small talk like we talked about in the lesson, but like just like to remind them like what the main goal is of the session. And then boundary. But in the lesson this week too, we talked about like if a student gets frustrated, like what to do about it. And I think a boundary there would just be like if that ever happens, like just move on to another thing. Like don't just keep like beating that same like concept and just be like, okay, like let's stop right here, and then do you have any other questions that we could address, and then maybe we'll come back to it.
That's fair.
Yeah, what do you think?
I'm just gonna comment on your comment. I think the not being a dead horse also helps them leave with confidence. Because if you just hit the same thing over and over, they're gonna be frustrated. But for boundaries, for me, one thing I had to set a boundary for is I had a semester. No, I had 2 semesters where I was working in the writing center and the math lab, and I'd have people come into the writing center during my shift there and try to ask me math questions. So
Oh,
I had
what
to
the
like
heck?
set a boundary of like, hey, when I'm at this job, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
The math lab's open, you need to go over there, you know. But I
Yeah.
also had it where I'd be sitting in like the library doing my own personal homework, and I'd be sitting there like,
What?
okay, I've got to do this and this and this, and someone would come up to me like, hey, can you look over my paper? And I'm like, the writing lab's open at this very second, like
You
not
must
even
have
that far
been
away.
popular. That
Like,
is
so I
so
think,
funny. Oh my gosh. I never even thought of that actually. Like I never thought people would do that. That's
well,
crazy.
because they see you and they're like, I need help on this problem, and they're like, there's the tutor right there, and
Hey,
you're
she's
like,
there. You're like, I'm not a tutor right now.
yeah. And like, I'm happy to help people, but you have to
Sure,
get your own
yeah.
homework done. So I
But
think there's a boundary of like your own mental sanity. Because I had a point where one of the tutors had my number. I'm one of the tutorees because like I knew them outside of tutoring, and they text me like pictures of problems, and I'm like, I have an assignment due in 10 minutes because it's
well,
almost midnight.
yeah.
About
And you're
that.
not there to just like do their homework either.
Yeah,
Like if you
that's
come in
another good boundary.
tomorrow, I'll help like show you how to do it, but I'm not gonna just like give you the answer
Tell
right
you.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah,
think that's
that
another good
would be
boundary you brought up,
frustrating.
and not doing it for them.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, because that can be hard because like sometimes you get excited because you're like, oh, I remember how to do this. Yeah, let me show you real quick. Like I caught myself doing that and then I was like, wait, I'm literally just doing the problem for them. So let's see what you can do and then I'll help you if you need help. think that's better. So.
That's fair. Sometimes that can be hard. It also can be hard because you assume they're struggling in a part and then you realize they're not.
Yeah, that totally happened. Like a girl came in and she knew how to do everything. I was like, oh, so I was just like there for moral support, I guess. But
Oh, that happens.
yeah, I was like, But yeah, sometimes because they need the practice, like, because that's what's going to help them on their tests. So.
One thing I started doing when people came in and they absolutely did not know, so that I wasn't doing their homework for them, I'd choose like the one right in front of it that had the odd answer in the back or something that's very similar, and I'd show them how to do it. And then I'd be like, okay, now try on your problem. And I'd watch them as they went and help to guide them.
Gotcha.
That way I was showing them the steps, but then I'd put away the steps and say, okay, now your turn, and only pull them out when they needed it because I write them down. So that's the thing I did. And then that way you can guide through them, and then you leave them be for a second to try it on their own without you like constantly looking over.
Right.
And that's something that helped a lot when I was doing like math based, which chemistry's got a similar study style. So with problems.
Yeah, I know, that's really good. Or like, yeah, just have like example problems for different things and then show them that way. That's really smart. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for meeting.
Yeah, of course.
I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording.